Ah, there you are. So you're probably wondering what these are. These weird scribbles that I have, and this swimming beast that I have. Well, I'm going to teach you how I went from these simple thumbnails, and I extracted one of them, and I put some details on it. This lesson today, hopefully you're going to stick around to see, is about taking elements or one of the thumbnails that you draw and putting shading on it, details and refinement, knowing when to stop. And I'm going to teach you how to outline and critically think through your design instead of just trying to make it look good. All right, folks, let's jump into it. So, how would one start this project? So let's say you've never done this before. Look up here to the left. It's just a thumbnail, blank sheet of paper. This is printer paper, by the way. This isn't fancy. I went to, I think, Staples, and I got just a pack of regular printer paper. I don't even remember the brand. If you do want a really nice brand that you can use just for printer paper, I would say Hammermill. That's a really good one. But anyway, check it out, everybody. It's just a wispy shape. It kind of looks like a shrimp and an eel, and we got some jellyfish tentacles. And this is the kind of exploration that we need to do for the thumbnails first. So you can see here that there's not a lot of detail here. It may look complicated just because there's a lot of flowing lines overlapping each other. But when you think about it, all I do is just add tiny little dark bits in places where there could be crevices. And then I let my pencil glide freely across the entire thing, because I don't know what kind of shapes I'm not thinking of yet. So I'm allowing my brain to do this and my hand to do this, just in case there might be a diamond in the rough. Hey, and guess what? We're done. We're going to move to thumbnail number 3. Or I'm sorry, 2. I can't even count. So let's just number these. Keep everything nice and orderly. Okay, we'll put number 2 right here. Now, when we think of aquatic, we think of giant underwater crazy Leviathan type creatures, mainly serpents, because serpents are awesome, and they feel like snakes, and eels are just awesome in general. As a matter of fact, I've been thinking of an eel this entire time, especially a moray eel. But the thing is, for me, I already have that in my mind. You all drawing right now maybe have another type of fish in mind, like sharks, urchin, I don't know, killer whale. Of course, that's a mammal. But it's like, what would you normally think about? And as you're putting these shapes on the page, ask yourself, how can I break out of the norm here? What could I give myself on the page that I normally don't do? And that's where the spark comes. That's where the spark of creativity could take you to new heights when you draw. So, for example, it looks like a worm. It looks like an eel. It looks like a serpent. We've seen this a million times in movies and games and probably our dreams. At least for me, anyway, because I dream up of crazy stuff. So the details are not fleshed out yet. We don't know what the fins look like. We don't know if there's going to be tentacles, teeth, horns, whatever. I mean, you can't go wrong with horns. But we're just going to let that sit. That's how quickly we can do this. So we're going to do thumbnail number 3. All right. And this also trains your brain to not get fixated on a specific design. So we have to throw perfection out the window, because perfection, it should never be a driving force for any of your artwork. The thing is, when you take a methodical approach and just allow exploration, with your hand, with the line weight, line quality, all of that stuff, just scribble. It allows you to think new ways, and you're actually reshaping your neural pathways. You're escaping what you feel safe doing when it comes to drawing. Trying to get a job in the industry right now, if you're just trying to freelance and nobody's buying your stuff, You could be a really good artist, technically proficient, but your subject matter just isn't well thought out yet. The design isn't there. So what you're doing is you're just putting details on a bad design, which makes the art more visible in a bad way. So what this does is it allows you to erase all of obsession about detail and just get a good silhouette. So here's what we have. Okay, we have, it's numbered. So we have this elongated fish-like shape, and then all of a sudden we have the standard eel, and then we have this really big kraken-looking thing. The cool thing about having multiple thumbnails, you can actually take different elements and combine them into a larger creature. Now, let's say that you have a bunch of thumbnails and you're not good at making a decision. You can't just think of what to do on the fly after this. It's okay. Walk away. Walk away. Go take a walk. Go eat lunch, breakfast, work out. Come back in an hour. We'll go watch a movie where there's creatures in it. Come back and then be like, oh, this one really resonates with me. So here's my thought process. I really like number 2, even though I have drawn mini serpents and you all have seen mini serpents. However, I still like aspects of 1 and 3, but there's just something intriguing about that head, because I'm thinking a huge, powerful jaw that bites in a way that we haven't seen before, and then maybe a nice crest in the back, kind of like a huge, bulbous, venomous head. And then over here, there's just something about this part. It's almost like shrimp, but not. So this is going to be a really fun one, everybody. And this is how we first start the creature design process. So the thing that helps me whenever I design creatures is I always like to start with the head first. So I'm looking up here at this part, just this overall silhouette of the head only. And I want to try to duplicate that as best I can. Now this isn't going to be a very large drawing. As a matter of fact, it's probably going to be just a little bigger than the thumbnail. I don't want to take up too much space because I want to be able to, one, give you guys a timely lesson so I don't spend 8 hours on it. But 2, when I put details on it and eventually do shade it, I want to be able to take care of the large surfaces rather quickly. Okay, so these little lines that I'm putting in here, very light. I'm using a 4B by Tombow. This is a really cool pencil that I've started to use lately. And I'm typically using Faber-Castell, but I like to experiment with different ones. If you have a number 2 pencil at home, that's also good, so you don't need anything fancy. That actually brings up a thing that I want to talk about. It seems that artists will ask what pencil I'm using or what paper I'm using as if that is the determining factor on how good art looks. And while it does matter somewhat, you can still produce good sketches on napkins and envelopes and scrap paper. It doesn't matter the type of pencil that you're using, as long as the graphite can go dark to light. So what I mean by that is, let's say that you try to shade with your pencil and no matter how hard you press, it never gets dark. You're probably using too many H's. An H pencil, not the pure H, we're talking like 1H, 2H, 3H, the really hard graphite, it's designed like that. It's for folks that have a heavy hand and they need to get light lines. So no matter how hard you press, it starts to shine. And it's picking up the light from like the overhead light in your room, and it's really annoying. That's why I don't use H's at all, ever. And a B, like a B pencil, the graphite is a little softer. So when you're pushing down, it allows you to go dark, and then if you ever want to go light with it, just don't press hard. So I know it's kind of like a cheeky response to those questions, and I don't mean to be rude about it, but it's essentially training your hand to not press hard. It's the light touch. See the light touch that I'm giving? And I'm not pressing too hard. My pinky finger is over here on the right, and I'm keeping the majority of my palm on this side off of the page. So when you lay your palm flat like this, and then you try to draw, you're actually hindering the movement of your hand, which would require you to lift and draw lightly anyway. So it's kind of like you're a brick, and that's why so much work smears and you press too hard and shading never looks good. It's just kind of like a chain reaction. For me, this is the fun part. I just really like the head of creatures and all the different kinds of shapes that it may offer, and just the different deadly array of teeth and skull, or teeth and tentacles and all that awesome stuff. So notice how there's not a lot of shading here. I don't want there to be. I just want nice clean outlines, and this gigantic jaw, it's probably going to be functional for some reason. Now, I don't have that function in mind yet. However, it probably will be for biting, maybe intimidating. This creature that I'm drawing is not nice, and I don't think that's the eyeball. I really don't think that is. It's probably something resembling an eye, mainly to kind of scare off potential predators, because I don't know how really big this thing is. I'm going to round the head just for fun. Now I got a lot of lines in here, a lot of different crevices and different, it looks like a piranha, but there's a lot of different ways the skull can go. So we'll see what happens. I think for the most part it's okay. Okay, here's what'll happen. So I'm going to put a layer of shading over top of it, something really soft, keeping the strokes very close together. I'm not even going to go fast. I usually go over areas like this pretty fast, but I just want a nice coating over this to the point where I can see what's happening. I'm already thinking that I'm going to add more to the head, because I think the head could use some more shape, especially up here. The thing I have to be careful of, I believe already that I lost the silhouette. I lost it. So when I'm looking over here, I think I got too carried away with the head. Now it just looks like a bat, and that's not what I wanted. So I'm starting over. See, this is what happens, everybody. I'm not cutting this out. I'm not going to edit the video to make it look perfect like I chose it the first time. No, this is the raw process that we go through. So a lot of times when I do thumbnails, I'll have maybe 10 or 15 thumbnails, and it'll take me a while to choose one. I don't even like the one that I choose, so I'll go back. But so I'm going to turn this in a way that you can actually see this head up here. So we'll consider that a warm-up. Okay? It wasn't in the direction. Maybe it'll be a cool creature later, but I'm going to try and get the outline to the thumbnail that I did as best as I can. There we go. Okay, I think that's where I messed up the first time, just getting the back of the cranium. So there's the head right there. And that big jaw, man, just the gigantic jaw right there. I think I missed it last time. Well, I didn't miss it, but I kind of turned it into not a mandible, and I think that's where I screwed up. Let's see if we can get this in here. Yep. All right, so let's move this up a little bit. trying to move it up so where you can see both. I may just have this show up separately on the screen, you know, if I ever have to zoom in or whatever. Okay, I think we're cooking now. I feel better about this already. I'm glad I started over. I realized that it was not turning out well halfway through the intro. And when I was talking to you guys, something was off. And also, if this thing swims, I have to make sure that it can go through the water. It could be streamlined. I mean, the other one was streamlined, but not the way I think it was supposed to be. So there's a lot going on with this section. Right up here is kind of ambiguous. So maybe our little critter right here is blind. And we'll just put a shape. And I'm just going to leave it. I'm just going to leave that. And we'll see what happens. Maybe it's just a giant mouth. How's that? So maybe we can do some really creepy teeth coming out like this. And that'll be it. So maybe the head comes up here. There we go. I feel better about this already. Yeah, see, that's the other thing that I missed. That shape. See that shape right here? How it's coming down in kind of a half circle. This is it right there. That little half circle, and then it looks like it comes up. So I have to make sure that this part comes up. That could be almost a head crest. It's elongated. It's a little longer than what I have, but I think it'll work. And also, since this is our first stage and nothing has to be perfect, I don't necessarily, and you don't necessarily have to do the entire body here. Remember what I said earlier about my favorite parts to draw are the face first, getting the head in there. Because really when you work on the head of a creature, it often fills the gaps of things that we need to feel as an artist before we go into the rest of the body. So it tells us the personality of the creature. We can put character in there, so wear and tear, age, wrinkles, scars. Even if it doesn't have any eyeballs, which I don't know if mine will have eyes yet. I just got to find a good spot. If it does have eyes, you can draw the emotion in there. But there's a lot that you can do. Okay, so that fin right there. Yeah, see, that's what I didn't do before. So I'm just going to keep the paper up here. I'll put that fin in there. There we go. So I may draw maybe a half of the serpent neck and then let our imagination fill in the rest. How's that sound, everybody? It's funny. I was drawing something the other day, and I wanted to say, I was drawing something really evil. I wanted to say, let's just put a happy spike on this demon. Total poor choice of words. So I don't think this serpent is going to feel, or is going to be very happy. Okay, so I think now it's a little better. I mean, there's a lot going on up there, but I think we got the main gist of it. So the next phase is to get just a nice coating of graphite across everything. Look how soft I'm applying this, and notice how I'm sticking to one direction until the whole body is filled up, or the whole head, I should say. It's not going to be perfect. There we go, and I'm holding the pencil super light. I mean, we're talking at the very end of it. So when I shade, there's a lot of movement happening. So I'm just going to turn my page, and then I'm going to go and pass number 2. I'm not going to press lighter. I've given multiple lessons on this shading technique. Another good technique is if you have some graphite powder and you have cotton swab or some kind of soft tissue and you want to spread that across the drawing, you can do that too. I always like this method the most just because this is how I learned it, and also you can grab a lot of texture doing it this way. There we go. See how I'm getting to the gap in the crease in the neck? I'm going to go across the whole head after that. After I made that point. There we go. Okay. And then let's do pass number 4. We're just going to go horizontal. Right across. And then right when I get right here, boom, I'm going to go across the whole head. It's kind of like filling up a vase with water. There we go. Okay. So this is good. This is what we want. So it's a very stripped down version of all of the scribble marks that we have up here, because there's a lot of wrinkles that can happen. There, maybe I'll add some gills in there. Not sure. But the point being is getting the overall silhouette in. That's what you want. Next, let's start figuring out what's going on with this body. This big section on the skull right here is probably a protector. Okay, it's built and it has evolved to protect this critter from imminent danger and protect that mouth. I'm going to keep the mouth itself behind that mandible to add mystery, but also show protection, so there's function on that face. Okay, now I like to darken the tips of anything sharp. Very light at first, making sure that I don't overdo it and I don't accidentally press too hard, and then I fade it off. That's it. You see that line that goes across there that separates the darker shading from the light that I already did? Don't panic. This is what messes a lot of people up. So you just go to that edge right there and just kind of glide your pencil across the edge lightly and go back down and go back up. There. You just take care of it. You don't need to smudge with your finger, which is terrible to do. Don't smudge with your finger. You can take care of all this with the pencil that you have. I released a short not too long ago, it was like last week or so, where people were, commenting, why can't you use your finger? And I want to tell you all why you should not learn to use your finger to shade or smudge, and I'm going to be just very blunt and upfront about it. One, the oils absolutely ruin your paper, to the point where if you start to put values on like this and you take your finger and you start rubbing it across there because it looks gray and it fills it up, that oil is acid. There's acid in your finger oil. And if dirt gets on it, it creates blotches. And good luck trying to shade on top of that if you want the same effect that you were having before with just a nice gradation of the pencil. And 2, this is a big one, but it's I feel like you need to hear it just to help you. If you use your finger to shade, you are bypassing the necessary training to learn how to apply graphite properly. You're skipping the practice needed to go from dark to light. So you're just blending with your finger. We're not talking about blending sticks or using handkerchiefs or cotton swabs or anything along those lines. No, I'm talking about fingers to shade. I used to do it, man. I used to do it in school all the time. Grade school, even parts of high school I did it. And then I realized that, one, my drawings looked terrible when I did it. I just thought that they looked good, like I was shading correctly, and it wasn't good. So, if you find the urge to use your finger, get out of that bad habit and learn how to go from dark to light, because you keep the texture of the paper, and you're going to thank yourself when you do it. So, it may be hard to hear, and I'm sorry about that, but I'm kind of not sorry, because I feel like it's almost like a taboo thing to talk about among art. And comment below. Comment below if you agree. Comment below if you disagree. But if you disagree, give a really good answer of why it's okay to shade with your finger and how it's better than just good old-fashioned shading. What a weird shape in there. This thing could probably have some tentacles at some point, but I think it's going to be like a Dunkley osteus almost, where there's going to be armor plating on that jaw. I wonder if I should add eyeballs. I may do it, but I need to figure out where I want to put the eyes. So I think that'll come in later. Right now I'm just kind of getting the edges of these platings to help with stacking them up on top of each other. Comment below and let me know what you're working on. We invite everybody listening here to our Creature Design Workshop Discord. You can check that link in the description below. So the Discord is a bustling community. We have, I think, maybe 8,000 people now. I have no idea. But we have monthly creature design challenges based on briefs, which is so much fun to do. There's all skill levels. We welcome all skill levels. Everybody's there to help. Nobody is there to judge or anything. And then the other thing I want to mention about our Discord is that we have personalized sketchbook threads so you can keep track of all the progress. And we offer feedback. You can ask for critiques on whatever's going to help you in your journey to become a better artist. So check that out. And the Discord's free to join. So what have you got to lose? So the thing that I'm doing now is I'm just building up what I see in this neck. Okay, there's a lot of twistiness going on. There's a lot of ambiguous little markings here and there. I'm just trying to clean it up here. I do think that this mouth is probably going to need to have a separation right there, so we know where that mouth slit is. And the teeth, I'm just going to keep really dark right in through here, so maybe there's some shadow. It's kind of like a blackened face right there. Like the whole head is just really dark. And these teeth, very menacing. But we only see the silhouette of it, so we don't know what that face looks like. This part, however, I don't think I'm going to have poke up like a spike. I think this is just going to be a very streamlined and kind of a slippery creature that swims, much like an eel. And you can see how I move around here, and I am just adding some values where the biggest muscles would exist. And I'm not going to put too much down here on the neck. I don't want to do that. I don't want to take away from what I've done for the head, because the head is going to get most of the details in here. So here I want to go over some of the design choices that you saw me make during that little segment. Basically, I was filling in some areas with shading, the jaw and everything. But these little crevices that are coming out of the face, I just wanted to add some cool structure and cool texture. So all of this wasn't just plain open area. And I decided to give it eyeballs. There's an eye right here, so it's predator, so it can look forward, but it can also look to the side a little bit. That's the thing about predators and then prey. Animals such as birds and deer, those types of animals, they have eyes more sideways facing so they can see on the side and then the front at the same time. But their heads are always tapered. So no eyes are directly on the side, because you still have to see forward. But I wanted this thing to be able to see forward and also on the side too. And then the other thing, the shading that I gave it is basically like a light catcher. So you can see that this light area up here, the light coming down is catching right there. And then all of a sudden there's like a little cliff, a little crevice. And you can just achieve that by layering on some shading and not outlining it hard, but just stop the shading in a line, and it looks subtle and it looks soft. So you want those soft edges. And then some of the cast shadow from this jaw, it will come down too. And in no way are we done, but we can add some fun little details here. It's almost like an underwater dragon. It's like, why not? This design is evolving as I draw too, and you guys are helping me do it. And if you have any suggestions on other types of serpents that you would like to see me draw, comment below. I would love it. I mean, look at the difference. We went from this to that. Now, could this be something cool later? Yeah, of course. It has more of an eel face anyway. I mean, other than that eyeball so close to the edge. But yeah, it's got some potential there. But we got to this one, and I'm happy that we did. So the detail that I'm putting in on this particular sketch is considered a refinement sketch from a thumbnail. So if you ever hear that term, refinement sketch, just know that this amount of detail is usually the way to go. And it's a lot of fun too, because there's areas in your creature that you may not even have considered before. Like, for example, I didn't really know that I wanted that entire neck to be that thick. I didn't know that because the thumbnail up here, I only indicated it. But it looks like I just rounded it off right there with some stripes. Not sure. So I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to be like, well, I'm going to put not stripes, but I'm going to put maybe some cool looking quills coming off of it. Wouldn't that be awesome? All right, so at this point, I'm going to take a step back here and just kind of evaluate my drawing. So those of you drawing along with me and you have your own crazy creation on the page, zoom out a little bit, your thought process, and just ask yourself, is what I drew telling the story? Is it getting the idea across based on the thumbnail that we did? Now I can sit here for the next 2 days and just constantly put in details and all of that. However, the one thing that I want to do is make sure that the main idea is sold, and that is I wanted to do a portrait of this. I wanted to do the head. Now the body, yeah, I can add the body down here. As a matter of fact, I'll probably just indicate with a simple outline of what the body could be. So one thing that I like doing whenever I do just creatures in general is give a nice light outline, but keep all of the detail in a specific area. Again, just to kind of revisit my thought process here about putting details mostly in the face, all the characters in the face and in the head region. And the other thing that I forgot to mention earlier is all of the different shapes that we put inside our creature heads, that it kind of dictates the rest of the design of the body, because you want there to be an element of repetition. It helps continuity. It helps the design feel whole and complete. Have you ever designed a creature where there's so much going on, you have no idea what it is. You just kind of blatantly put spikes and tentacles and everything that could possibly exist on it in the sketch. It ends up being a detailed mess. And I suffered from that for a long time. It was something that I did to all my creatures. I just put so much stuff on my creatures that you can't really even tell what it is. And I know what it was. I knew what it was, but others didn't. And as I started working in this industry and I started realizing like, hey, my stuff needs to be passed on to the modeling department. Other people need to know what it is. And a really cool piece of advice that I got back in university when we were doing car design is, if you can hang up your presentation or show it in the portfolio, whatever, and not have to say a word about it, and the viewers understand everything, then you have success. You have a successful presentation. So think about that for a minute. Like if you wanted to do a creature design for a project, and you drew the creature, and you're displaying it in your portfolio, or for a client, doesn't matter. Can they understand everything that is going on with the creature without you having to say anything? Is the function clear? When I'm looking at this creature, there could be multiple functions that I just haven't drawn yet. For example, does it really hunt with biting, or is there something that comes out of the mouth? And it just so happens that marking was an accident, by the way. Matter of fact, I could probably put a long tongue in there. Maybe it stings its prey. Who knows? And these fins up here, maybe they help it swim. That is a function. So little things like that you need to think of. I'm going to put some muscle right over here on the side. It was more of a happy accident than anything, because I really didn't anticipate with these tiny little crevices and these little shaded holes in the skull that they would actually be encircling the eyeball, or the socket for that matter. Put a little eyelid down there. Our friendly little fella. Yeah, I say that sarcastically. Is definitely not friendly. I'm already thinking of color and all of that fun stuff. Hey, speaking of color, comment below if you guys want to see me start doing stuff in color, like digital painting. I realize that I can guarantee you, I've only done a couple videos like that. It's funny, I'm on Photoshop almost every day for clients, and I don't really do colored stuff for this channel because I wanted to keep it traditional. But if you guys want to see me at least do some colored illustration, let me know. Okay, so now that I'm getting the head in there and the neck and everything, you can see that all of this area gets the detail, gets the love, and it slowly starts to fade off down the neck. These light lines down there, I'm not really worried about those. Maybe I can hint with some shading as to where the large muscle groups are, but don't get carried away with putting in every single little skin wrinkle and imperfection in the skin and spike and everything, because you're going to fall down the rabbit hole of, well, I did one area detailed, got to do the other. You definitely don't want to do that. All right, there we go. Okay, so, as I move around this page, I think that for the most part, we were successful. Now, a really cool exercise to do for all of you. You saw how I started this process with the 3 thumbnails at the top. Okay, pick your thumbnail and just do the head design of it. And do it with this detail. Now, I've been speaking as I've been drawing, but if you want to give yourself a time frame, it probably would have been done earlier or a lot sooner. 25 to 30 minutes per head design. And I think that'll be a lot of fun for you. So another little trick that I want to teach you guys is, let's say that you added a bunch of details in an area like I did, and then all of a sudden you have these outlines on other areas that you haven't quite shaded yet. So if you look at this odd shape on the neck, let's say you have that somewhere on a creature that you're drawing where you can see the outline, but there's no real 3D roundness to it. It's an outline, and you want to make it look as realistic as possible. Well, you go to that line that you drew, and you start to fade off just the line only. So you go over top of it and you spread out the graphite. This is going to take a little bit of patience, but once you start doing this, you can start spreading out the shading, and then you'll lose that hard line. And it does take a good soft touch here, so you don't want to press hard. So notice how I'm holding the pencil. It's more towards the back. The closer you get towards, if you do this, so the closer you get towards the tip, this kind of forces you to work on small details. That's great if you're at the stage where you need details, but we're not there right now. So we want to loosen it up a little bit and make sure that we have as much control over the pencil as possible while still keeping it loose. And hey, maybe, as small as an area this is that you're working, maybe you will have to turn it again just to ensure that that line looks good. So you hit it at another angle like this, and it's starting to look better. Now, when it comes to something like this part, it's actually quite an easy fix. The darkness of that line, you just need to make sure that the shading that you put on top of it is as dark. And then what you do is you fade off that shading above it and below it. This is why I'm doing tiny little circular movements. The circles help. If you go straight up and down, like a sawtooth, or something jagged, that's what creates streaks. So you want to make sure that you do little circles. And to go even more into detail about that, the circles, I'll show you exactly why it's good. When you shade in a tiny little oval, your pencil goes up, and then it goes back down. And then when you go up to cover a new area, you go back down to complete the circle, but you go over top what you previously shaded. That covers in all the gaps. So you keep going and going and going. Now this is much bigger. I'm basically drawing a slinky, but when it's this tiny, you can do it pretty quickly. And you also get that awesome flat spot on your pencil. Everybody knows what that is right now watching this. That beautiful flat spot where the shading is the best and you hope it never goes away. It eventually does, and you're just like, man, I got to sharpen my pencil again, but it's great once you put it there. All right, so once we got that and we're starting to fade that off, then we can start working in the actual values. Now, this is when you want to use essentially the brightness that you have in there. So I can kind of see the white of the paper still. It's pretty lightly shaded right there. So I'm going to go to the edge of that darkened part right there on the top, and I'm going to do little circles again right up into that rounded. It's kind of like a gland, isn't it? Not an egg sac, but it's almost like a muscle or something. I'm barely pressing, barely. There we go. So I want to make sure I work up this area too. So I'm just going to go back right there. Now notice what I did here. The middle area stayed where it is. I don't want to use the eraser to put a highlight in there. Instead, I'm just going to lightly shade in ovals until I get what I want. I'm going to have to force myself to stop. Now, this is probably still a little too dark, so I'm just going to fade that darkness off until I make it look like it's really a part of the creature. And if you have dark little lines here and there where they show up like that, you can always put a nice widened coating of shading over top of everything, and it eventually will layer up. And you can just layer over top of what you just did, and you just keep going. It's all about patience, and it's all about layering. So hopefully that helps. And really, folks, you keep building up drawings like that. This is how I'm able to get the super detailed drawings but start with scribbles, essentially. So the other thing I want to point out, this neck area right here, obviously the skin is, he looks pretty old. Like the creature looks old. So the shading is already there. I'm just going to put in some wrinkles in the direction in which the neck is twisting. If this is where studying anatomy really comes in, and your own bodies. I mean, the wrinkles that we have on our skin, just turn your head in the mirror and just look at certain parts of your chin or your hands, your wrists, anything, and just see how skin bunches up and wrinkles and stuff. It's pretty cool, and we take it for granted because we don't pay attention to that stuff. We never had to. And now all of a sudden we're drawing a beast that lives in the ocean on another planet, and we're just like, oh yeah, this really comes in handy right now. So you can see these tiny little darkened crevices right here, these little shaded like fatty deposits and wrinkles together. It's really coming in. Here we go. So it's looking pretty cool. Now, if you've made it this far, congratulations. What we've done is we've taken a simple thumbnail and we've kept pretty much the same position that the original creature is in, and we gave a simple outline, and then we put most of the detail in the face and some of the neck. Now, there are many ways to do thumbnail refinement studies. Another way would be to take ideas from several thumbnails and just make up a new stance, but still hold on to the most of the detail that you see here, the most of the big shapes in the creature. There's many ways to do it. Now, for me, I just like to keep the same shape but focus on the face, just because, as explained before, we get most of the emotion and character coming out through the face. Now, those of you that are new to character design and creature design, you would take this sketch, you're not done yet, you would take the sketch and then you would do a couple different views of the face. And I'm going to leave that up to you. I'm not going to do it purposely because I want to see what you guys can create. Check the link in the description below for our Creature Design Discord, Creature Design Workshop Discord. Post your sketches up on there because I would love to see them. Comment below and let me know what you're working on too. And just remember, everybody, this is not a sprint, okay? It's a marathon. If you're uneasy about your drawing ability, or you think that you're not going to make it in this industry, I just want you to know, if you take a step back and do the baby steps first, okay? These are the baby steps, thumbnails. Allow your brain to explore. Do not try to perfect anything. Slowly but surely, you're going to start acquiring the skills necessary to have good design too. Mainly in collecting reference. Okay, collecting reference is a skill in itself. So, we have this wonderful, beautiful thing called Google. Go on Google, Pinterest, Tumblr, anything that you could find where it'll give you a really good, vast array of subject matter that you want to make image boards of and, collect reference that way. But I want to thank everybody again. And if you have any questions, comment below too. Till next time, peace.